Virtual students will have something a little bit different going on. So you're going to need a plastic bag to store your project. It should be a big one. You're going to have probably a smaller plastic bag where you keep your clay, the extra clay that you work with, not your in-progress project. And you're going to have a couple other tools too. We have this plastic rib, we have a wooden skewer that will be your needle tool, and we have a popsicle stick, which is good for just modeling, but it's also a good straight edge, like a ruler for this project. You're going to want to prep your table surface. So work at a table that you don't mind getting a little bit messy or dirty, because it will get a little bit dirty. One thing you can do to kind of keep your table a little bit cleaner is use wax paper underneath it. When you work with this though, the wax paper is going to slide around and be a little bit of a problem. So you might want to tape this down. So I'm ready to turn this clay into a slab. So you're going to want to kind of hit it and form it, kind of slap it around until it becomes more of a ball of clay. And you're going to want to use the palm of your hand to flatten it into kind of like a pancake or a cookie shape. All these little lines and bumps are best smoothed out. If you can't do it with your finger, you're going to probably want to use just a little bit of water to do that, to help move around the clay. Your water cup will also serve as like a cup to store some of your tools in later as well. So when you start using the palm of your hand, you don't want to use all of the rest of your hand because it'll just be useless little slaps. You're going to want to use the palm of it. And much like how I just demonstrated a little bit earlier, you want to pay attention to the peaks and valleys. Anything that is a little too high up is you're gonna have to focus on that area. Any area that is a valley or more flat, you're gonna want to stay away from that so that it's more even. So I've gone in and I've used the palm of my hand to flatten my slab. Notice how it's about thinner than my finger. That's a good width for any clay slab. If you use regular clay that you are supposed to fire in the kiln, anything too thick, anything that's probably as thick as your thumb or thicker, is likely to explode because the air will be leaving it as it is being fired too quickly, or the moisture will be leaving it too quickly. Air dry clay like this, it's best if it's thinner, just so that you can use your clay in a more productive way. There's less waste. You can stretch what little you have to be further, but also it will be lighter and it'll take a quicker amount of time to dry if you use thinner slabs. So I've used the palm of my hand to flatten, and I did kind of go in round motions around the whole thing. It's better to have a bigger slab than a smaller slab because you can get more out of your use with this. If cracking happens around the edges, you can use a little bit of water to smooth over those parts, just so that they don't show up on your final art project. And you're going to want to maybe use your rib to smooth out those areas too. This will not only get rid of cracks, but this will help kind of get rid of any marks that your hand may have made. Get some water on there. Like if there are any inconsistent areas where my peaks and valleys didn't even themselves out very well. So as far as your other tools go, This will be used to cut things, which is why it's best if your slab is a little thinner. You can use this as a straight edge. If you do need a square with this later, you don't have to worry about making straight lines. You could just press this tool into your clay to get whatever square shape you want to, so that you know where you're supposed to be cutting. And this also doubles as a straight edge. So you could use, if it's thin enough, your skewer to cut through that clay. If it goes all the way through. Know that this wooden skewer doesn't have a very long shelf life, so you want to treat it nicely or the end will get a little beaten up. You could also use your rib, your plastic rib here, as a cutting tool as well. So always use a straight edge like this wooden popsicle stick whenever you're cutting those edges. Otherwise it just won't be even, it won't be clean, it won't be good for your clay project. Any extra clay that is not part of the slab you want to use, clump it up and put it back in the smaller plastic bag that you received all of your clay in. The smaller pieces you have that are separate, the quicker it will start drying. So that's why you want to clump it all together. You're going to want to remoisten this clay either by getting a thin skin of this or covering this in a damp paper towel. So what I did is I got a paper towel. I made sure there were maybe 2 or 3 layers of paper towel overlapping, otherwise it gets too thin. I ran it under water. I squeezed out some of that extra water. You still want it to be moist, but you don't want it to be dripping. And this is a great way to keep your clay project from, or your extra clay that you are still working with, from drying out. That goes back in the smaller plastic bag. But you need to start storing this clay project now. So I need to put away all of my tools. I like to store them in the cup that I otherwise would keep my water in, just because it's already a dirty kind of cup. I might as well keep all my clay tools together and store this in my plastic bag. If you have something flat that you can put this on that will keep it from warping or distorting, that would be preferred. The only note I'd like to tell you though is you want to be conscious of the fact that this clay project might just stick to whatever it is sitting on. So if that is the case, if you do find something that you want to use as like a tray, you're going to want to put down newspaper. That newspaper will kind of absorb that moisture, and it may not last all that long, but it will stop your clay from fusing to whatever surface it is resting on. And then you just want to slide that clay project right into your plastic bag, squeeze out all that extra air. If you have multiple slabs, they do need to be separated by a layer of newspaper. All that extra air is squeezed out. And I like to tuck this underneath and put this in storage here. You want to be careful with how you put it away and handle it so that you don't damage your project, but this bucket will at least keep it protected so that nothing happens to it between classes. So good luck in creating your slabs.